Hi guys, it's Billy Dukes, and I wasn't going to have an episode this week, but I didn't like the idea of taking a week off, so I decided to fill that hole. I think I got something interesting to talk about as well. This is a YouTube-only episode, which means it's not going to be on Periscope, a special treat for everybody who subscribes on YouTube. Thank you very much for that. I please encourage you to subscribe as well. Give a thumbs up one of these. If you don't give a thumbs up, I can only assume you're a hater. Comment, ask questions. I'm not going to answer questions at the end of this week's episode like I do usually. We'll save all of those for next week when we pick up the regularly scheduled The Future of Country Music. First, Friday. Cheers. In 2003, the Chicago Cubs and the Florida Marlins were playing in the Major League Baseball National League Championship Series. It was Game 6. It was in Chicago. And if the Cubs won, they'd move on to the World Series for their first pennant in 60 years. During the 8th inning, Marlins second baseman Luis Castillo hit a fly ball in foul territory that infielder Moises Alou appeared to be able to catch, but he was disrupted by a fan named Steve Bartman. You remember this. You probably even remember what happened next. If you don't, Google Bartman and you'll learn all about it. Kind of amusing, a little bit tragic. It was a late 3-0 lead for the Cubs, and then it became an 8-3 loss, and the Marlins would go on to take Game 7 in Florida 2 days later. The Cubs would have to wait 13 more years for their first World Series try. Everyone blamed Bartman, who was likely doing only what every fan in that position that close to the action would do, which is try to catch a foul ball. You have to be a baseball history savant to recall the comedy of errors that happened after that play, however. There was a walk, a wild pitch, an error on what could have been an in-the-inning double play, some lousy pitching, another error by Sammy Sosa on an overflow, and then, of course, 2 days later, the Cubs had a 5-3 lead in the Game 7, and they blew that to lose 9-6 or something like that. But it's Bartman. It's Bartman's ear-muffed image that was the personified villain because, hey, you know, that's a lot easier. Sara Evans' argument that her song Marquee Sign didn't get the radio airplay she deserved because she's a woman has a Bartman problem. Evans released the song in August of 2017. It was the first single from her album Words, and it didn't do much on the radio. In fact, the airplay was pretty minimal, and the next 2 singles she released got even less attention. It's absolutely true that we're living at a time when songs from women are being scrutinized unnecessarily, and to a certain degree, Evans was a victim of that. I was there last month at the CMT Artist of the Year event when she went outlet to outlet making her case for women in country music and talking about how she felt she was wronged because of her gender. And she was angry, very angry, on a night that was mostly characterized by female unity. We never aired or ran our interview with her, mostly because other outlets beat us to it. It was a lot of the similar content, similar quotes, so we just, I think, aggregated some other sources and left it at that. But let's look deeper at it. Evans is also an independent artist, and that makes it very difficult to get radio airplay unless A, you spend a hell of a lot of money, or B, you have very strong relationships with programmers at country radio stations. I can't speak to how much money Sara Evans spent. I think of Garth Brooks in terms of artists who spend a lot and are rewarded for it. I don't know if Sara Evans has Garth Brooks kind of money. And I also can't speak to her relationships with programmers at country radio stations. But this is where the sexism, I think, seeps into the conversation for her, and I think this is the point that she missed. Would she still have a record deal at Sony with RCA Records if we were not, at the time, in a multi-year low of artists, female artists getting airplay? A Little Bit Stronger from 2010 was her last big hit. After that, she had a pair of top 20 songs, and they were decent songs. She was still making good, relevant music in 2011, 2012, 2013, when her and her record label split, and she became an independent artist. But here's the bigger issue. Evans, at age 46 in 2017, when she released Marquee Sign, was attempting to do something almost unheard of in country music. Between 1985 and 2017, an artist age 40 or over spent a week at number 1 410 times. 410 different weeks, the number 1 song in country music was performed by an artist who was aged 40 or over. Of those 410 weeks, and this is across 33 years, just 17 weeks included songs with a woman as a primary vocalist. 17 from 7 artists. 17 out of 410 possible weeks. And those 7 artists, that includes Evans, actually. She was the last solo female to do it in 2010 with A Little Bit Stronger. There have just been 2 solo female artists to hit #1 across that span. Or across that span, who were older than Evans was at age 46. That would be Reba McEntire and KT Oslin. And by the way, KT Oslin, she's like the OG of women in country music. She had some 40-year-old plus hits and quite a big catalog that I certainly never appreciated. Here's the complete list of artists age 40 or over, female artists that had #1 hits. That would be Reba, KT Oslin, Little Big Town, Dolly Parton, Dolly and Friends, she had that trio, Anne Murray, and then Sara Evans in 2010. And we have not had an age 40-year-old or older woman do it since. These are #1 hits. Ageism. That's the ism that no one is talking about. And next week, I'm going to get into why that should scare you. And also look at the problem today as well as how it informs this issue at its very, very core. Thumbs up, comments, questions. I recognize that I'm speaking in terms of #1 hits, not overall radio airplay. I think the #1 hit is a fair metric that represents country music in terms of gender as a whole. It may not be perfect. If you have evidence that indicates that much, I'd be happy to take a look at it and correct myself. You can email me, billy@townsquaremedia.com. You can always find me on Twitter as well. I'm @BillyDukes. And leave comments and subscribe if you're interested in this or interested in hearing more about women in country music and how ageism plays a big role in that next week. Thank you all very much. Have a great Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you soon.